ladies, this is Rachel from The Healthy Womb, and this is my last video on periods and inflammation. So, inflammation, another issue with inflammation is that it's caused by stress and it causes stress. An amazing functional doctor called Dr. Mark Hyman says that 95% of diseases are caused by or made worse by stress. And that's obviously in the chronic disease category, not the acute disease category. But bearing in mind how many people have some kind of chronic illness, that's quite a lot of things that are being affected by stress. So what does stress do? So stress causes a number of things to happen. It increases your cortisol levels, and this really does a number on our hormones. So let's talk about that. First of all, if you are overly stressed, your body's going to say, I don't think it's safe for you to get pregnant right now. We need to be looking after other things. We need to be directing the nutrients in our blood to our main organs. You need to be able to run if you need to. So your blood pressure is going to increase. Your blood's going to thicken so that it can clot if you get cut. It goes through this emergency response because your body can't recognise the difference between a lot of demands being placed on you and back in the day when we were chased by wolves or bears or anything else out there. So it still has this very, very old response which still gets activated now. So in the most extreme case, your periods turn off completely, that's it. Low level stress over a longer period of time does several things. So first of all, if your body's been trying to ovulate and it's working its way through that process, and say you have something stressful like you've got to sit a test or an exam, your body can register something stressful has happened to you and just say, right, that's it, I'm going to stop ovulation until it's a safe environment. Now, if you chart your cycle and you chart your cervical fluid, you'll notice the signs that you're starting to ovulate being that you get an increased cervical fluid pattern, and then it drops off, but you won't get the temperature shift. And then later on, a week, 2 weeks, maybe a bit longer, you'll start getting that cervical fluid increase again, and this will continue until your body's able to ovulate. So that's on the milder end. Over a longer period of time, it starts causing something called estrogen dominance. So this means because your body's been trying to ovulate and it's increased the amount of estrogen, and then it hasn't had any progesterone to balance it, you start noticing that your cycle lengths have gone wonky. So the length of your cycle between your period and ovulation has increased, and the length between ovulation and the start of your period has decreased. And this is called luteal phase defect. So if this happens, this means that you may not have a long enough luteal phase in order to be able to sustain a pregnancy if you wanted to get pregnant. It also means that you're likely to get other signs as well of estrogen dominance, such as PMS, heavier periods, moodiness, fibrocystic breasts, tender breasts just before your period, cysts, fibroids, endometriosis-like symptoms. All these are caused by estrogen dominance. And then this is kind of like a triple whammy actually, because not only do you get estrogen dominance from too much estrogen, you get the decreased progesterone. This is because your cortisol is made from the same base hormone as progesterone, which is needed to oppose estrogen. Now, if you're stressed, your body will prioritise cortisol production because that's more important. So you only have a finite amount of pregnenolone, which is this base hormone. If more of it's going to make cortisol, less of it's available to make progesterone, so the chances are you won't be making enough. And if you think, well, that's fine, I can slap on a load of progesterone cream, it's a nice idea, but cortisol also blocks the pregnenolone receptors. So it kind of has this double whammy effect on pregnenolone. The cortisol high levels also as well knock off the thyroid production as well. So you have an adrenal axis, which produces the cortisol, and you also have the thyroid axis as well. It knocks that out, so you start getting signs of hypothyroidism. So stress is pretty huge, and if that wasn't enough, it also causes us to get a spike in blood sugar, so that means we usually get a corresponding spike in insulin. The spike in blood sugar is to be able to feed your muscles should you need to be able to run. And any of you with PCOS or suspect you have PCOS will be thinking this sounds familiar, because any excess insulin stimulates the ovaries to produce more testosterone instead of estrogen, which leads to the typical PCOS symptoms such as hirsutism, thinning hair, overweightness, lots of follicles but none of them rupturing, so you get this string of pearls presentation in the ovary. So we really want to be able to dampen down our stress response. So what can we do to help that? So there's a lot of things we can do. One is offset our stress. There are so many times that we do things that we don't need to do, but we feel obligated to do them, either due to social or peer pressure or any other kind of familial pressure. So one tip I can give you is if someone asks you to do something and you don't have time to do it, and you don't feel you can say no, just say, "Can I get back to you on that?" This makes a huge difference, because then you can go back to them a few days or a week later and say, "I'm sorry, I'm not able to do it." And you don't feel as bad because you've thought about it. You might text them or you might email them rather than have to do it face to face, which some of us find easier, and trust me, this process gets easier the longer you do it. The second thing you can do is offset your stress. So it might be that you really have minimised all your extra activities that you have to do, but you still have to do them. But you can do something to offset the stress. So that could be, for example, going for a walk, going to yoga, colouring in, spending fun time with your kids rather than just looking after them. It might be playing with them, it might be taking them for a walk with you. There are so many things that you can do to offset stress. The next thing you can do is balance your blood sugar levels. This really helps with dampening down this vicious cycle between high cortisol, high blood sugar level, high insulin, high cortisol, high blood sugar levels, high insulin, and sort of gets rid of the vicious cycle. And finally, eating anti-inflammatory foods, which I've covered in the previous 2 videos. So how can you do this if you're feeling a bit stuck? Well, luckily I'm running a cleanse program, and I'll be going through how to eat healthily for your hormones. You'll get a recipe book and you'll get lots of strategy and tips to implement, so that you can make this easily. And quite frankly, I have done some quite drastic diets in order to figure out my health problems, and each time I dove straight in and it was really hard to do, it was really difficult to maintain. And instead, what I do in this cleanse is break it down for you, and you have a new focus for each week until you get to week 4, when you're in the full cleanse and you stay there for 21 days. It's an online program which you follow at your own pace, and then there is a Facebook group of other women, including myself, who are also doing the cleanse for support. If you're interested, the link is below. Alright, I look forward to seeing you in my other videos. So if you want to get to know me more, you can go to healthywomb.com. I've also got the Period Whisperer online course platform and this WombTube channel. So I look forward to seeing you on one of those. Take care. Bye.